Good afternoon to one and all. And today concept is about knowing how to construct the parsing table. And in yesterday class, I explained you to construct the first and follow function table, not an parsing table there. Make a note. In the yesterday class, what we learned is after knowing the construction of the both first and follow functions, by getting the output of those, what we done with that outputs means just we represent the table for the first and follow function. That the name of the table is can be called as an first and follow table, right? And here in this class, what I'm going to deliver to you all is about seeing some examples and knowing how the ambiguity and the unambiguity consisting of in the given grammars. And by knowing the ambiguity and unambiguity, then by showing with an stack implementation. That means stack implementation is nothing but taking an input string and making the string to be acceptable, just by following the stack, just by following the implementation of the stack. We are performing that. And finally, when both the stack and the input buffer uh, makes empty, then automatically it can be called as an acceptable input string. What we are doing here is we are parsing the input string by using the parsing table. Parsing the input string by using the parsing table. That is nothing but an implementation of the stack. And here we are using the stack as a data structure. That's why we're calling the name of that one is an stack implementation. And finally, after the stack implementation, the final concept that I'm going to deliver in this class is about representation of an parse tree. Representation of an parse tree. And see here we're having an example. Consider the grammar. All of you make a note of this example. And in the last class, we already known that how to construct the first function and how to construct the follow function by following the rules of first function and by following the rules of follow function, isn't it? And in this class, what we are going to do, what we are going to learn initially from the grammar, after constructing the first and follow function table, then we are going to construct the parsing table. Then we are going to construct the parsing table. That is nothing but a table driven parsing. Table driven parsing. And from that table, what we are knowing is whether the given grammar is an ambiguity grammar or unambiguity grammar. What it means is whether the given grammar is an LL of one grammar or or it is not an LL of one grammar, right? And basically we are learning these things. And finally, by doing the parsing, by taking the input string and by implementing the stack, there itself we can show that for what the input string we are taking, we are showing that it is an acceptable input string for the given grammar, and then we are representing in parse tree, right? And all of you see the example here. We're having the example one, that is where the grammar consisting of e tends to t dash, e dash tends to plus t dash or epsilon, t tends to f t dash, t dash tends to f star f t dash or epsilon, f tends to open parenthesis, e closed parenthesis or id. Everything is same here. Everything, the grammar what we learned in the last classes, both are same, but here the difference is only at the production f we are having another non-terminal like a num, but in this grammar we are not having that terminal. For the production f we are having the another terminal num in the last example. That what we learned for that the grammar that we use it for first and follow function. But here it is a new grammar. Make a note of this. Why? Because here we are not having an num terminal. So we are considering this is another example for the construction of first and follow. And note down this example, all of you. And see here, I am computing the first function for all the variables, computing the follow function for all the variables, right? And this table is an first and follow table. And here, what the first of E is, the first appearing symbol, that is an T here, where T is a non-terminal, right? That means we need to determine the first of T. And now what the first of T is? First of T is F, where the again F is a non-terminal, right? And what it means is we need to determine the first of F. And what the first of F is having two rules. In the first rule, we are getting the terminal open parenthesis. In the second rule, we are getting ID. What it means is open parenthesis comma ID. That is the output for F. What it means, this F equal to T equal to E, right? For E, for T, and for F, the answer is same. That is open parenthesis, comma, ID. And for E dash, and now I'm constructing for the E dash. What is first of E dash? The first appearing symbol here is a terminal. So directly we are writing an terminal. And another rule we are having for the E dash, that is an epsilon. So plus, comma, epsilon. Isn't it? Are you all following? And then first of T, we already constructed the first of T. At the time of constructing the E, there we get an T, and at the time of constructing T, there we get an F. So for the F, where we get an output, this one, open parenthesis, comma, ID. So for the T, the same output. Now for the T dash, and the first appearing symbol is star, right? The first appearing symbol is star, comma, epsilon. Why? Because T dash is having two rules. One is star F T dash, another one is an epsilon. So star, epsilon. And what, again, we need not to construct the first of F. In the initial, at the starting symbol of E, when we are constructing the first function for starting symbol of E, there itself we get an output of F. That is open parenthesis, comma, ID. So the same output for the F. Right? Is it clear, all of you, how to construct the first function? It's very easy, right? Next, constructing the follow function. If you are well understand about the computation of the both first and follow function, then we can directly represent the table like this. Just by seeing the grammar, we can directly represent the table like this without writing the sentence by sentence or writing or solving the first and follow for 2 or 3 pages. No need of like that. If we are having the question for the 2 marks, it is very easy to represent when you well understand the concept. Now, the follow function. What is follow of E? Which is the starting symbol in the given grammar? Which is the starting symbol in the given grammar? E, right? So for this E, we need to place a dollar. That is the rule from the given. That is the rule from the given algorithm of the following function. Rule from the given algorithm for the follow function. And for the starting symbol of the E, we need to place dollar. And now I am constructing the follow for E, where the E is here. And if I map with B, and what the beta is, closed parenthesis. What it means, it is a terminal. So closed parenthesis, comma, dollar is the output of E. See, dollar, comma, closed parenthesis. And now E dash. Here we are having two rules for E dash. All of you see the cursor where I am placing. E dash. Now this E dash becomes B and this E dash becomes B. And what the beta is? Epsilon. If beta is epsilon, we need to follow, or we need to apply the rule like follow of A is equal to follow of B, or follow of B is equal to follow of A. And here we need to construct for E dash, right? So E dash is equal to follow of E. Follow of E dash is equal to follow of E. We already constructed the follow of E. What the output here is? Dollar, comma, closed. So the same output for the E dash. Dollar, comma, closed parenthesis. Now constructing for the T, and here we're having the T. In the rule 1 and rule 2 we're having T, and this becomes an capital B. And what the beta in the both conditions? Beta is an E dash. What is first of E dash here? Plus. We are only taking an plus. We are eliminating the nullables in the follow. That's why we are only taking the plus. Plus union. Our output of the variable should need a dollar. So we're applying the rule like in follow of A is equal to follow of B, right? And here E dash is equal to T. E is equal to T. What it means is follow of E is equal to follow of E dash is equal to follow of T. That means already here we get an plus union, follow of E union, follow of E dash. And for the both follow of E and follow of E dash, we are having the same outputs. So plus union, dollar, comma, closed parenthesis. What the output is? Plus, comma, closed parenthesis, comma, dollar, right? And here for T dash, and here we're having T dash. Now it is B. In the both conditions, what the beta is? Epsilon. Both the conditions, the beta is epsilon. In the both the rules, the beta is an epsilon. So we're having a rule like follow of B is equal to follow of A. What it means? Here t dash is equal to t dash. Here t is equal to t dash. That means fall of t dash is equal to fall of t. What fall of t is? Dollar comma closed comma plus. So directly we are writing the output of t and output of t for t dash like this. Dollar comma closed comma plus. Right? And finally, the last variable for the f we are constructing. Where we are having the f, this is f and this is f, right? And this we make the f as n b and make this f as n b. What is beta here? What is beta in the both the conditions? Beta is an t dash, right? Now what is first of beta? Star comma epsilon. So only we are taking an epsilon. We are taking a, sorry, we are taking a star. We are taking a star union. See, first, now apply the rule. Fall of A is equal to fall of B. That means T dash is equal to F. T is equal to F. What it means is fall of T is equal to fall of T dash is equal to fall of F. Means already we get 10 star union this one. Dollar comma closed parenthesis comma plus means star comma dollar comma closed parenthesis comma F is the output of fall of B. See, this is the first and follow table. This we already learned in the last class. We know how to compute the first and follow function, right? From this, we are representing an parsing table. We are representing an parsing table. Here, see, the representation of parsing table is in 2D matrix representation. See, at one side, we need to define all the non-terminals. All the variables here, we need to define all the variables like this. And whatever the terminals along with the dollar, whatever the terminals we are having in the given grammar, you all should place like this. You should place the terminals like this. Means here plus star, open parenthesis, closed parenthesis, ID, along with the dollar, we need to write like this. These are the input symbols, these are the non-terminals. These are the non-terminals. Input symbols means from this we are generating the input strings. From these terminals we are generating the input strings. So we are calling them as an input symbols. So it just looks like an 2D matrix, 2D array. So the name of this table can be called as an parsing table. And how to write or how to fill the cells in the table. How to fill the cells in the table. See here, we get an output for the first, make it as an first, not a symbol. We get an output for each and every variable for the first function and for the follow function. And here, only we are taking the E dash and T dash of follows, where that means E dash is considering a nullable and T dash is considering a nullable, right? For these two only we are considering the follow function. The remaining all we didn't consider. For the remaining all the variables, we didn't consider the follow function output. For the remaining all, along with the E dash and T dash, we are considering the first. We are denoting the first for every variable, but while coming to the follow, only for the epsilon productions we are considering. Only for the epsilon productions we are considering. What it means is, in the given grammar, the epsilon productions for E dash and T dash we are having. We are having E dash and T dash. What it means? E dash is defining an epsilon, T dash is defining an epsilon, right? So these two comes under an nullables. These two variables comes under an nullables. So only we are using the follow function output for only these two variables. We are not using for E, we are not using for T, and we are not using for F, right? See how the table was constructed. Here for the E, we get the first function is open comma ID, right? And in these two terminals, in these two input symbols, you just place the production rule E tends to TE dash here, like this. Why? Because the outputs are ID comma open parenthesis. In the place of the open parenthesis and ID, just place this production. Place the production of E. Right. Now for the E dash. For the E dash, we are considering first and follow. Both we are considering. Why? Because it is an nullable. The rule consisting of an epsilon. So we need to consider both the first and follow. Make a note of this too for understanding purpose. We are only considering the follow function output for the productions which are having the epsilons, which are having nullables, right? And here the first of E dash is an plus, right? Here E dash is having two rules. So for the plus, we need to consider the first rule like this. At plus E dash plus, I place E dash tends to plus E dash. And dollar comma epsilon, dollar comma closed parenthesis. In the place of these two symbols, I am writing the production E dash tends to epsilon. Dollar comma closed parenthesis. In these two places, what I am writing the rule is E dash tends to epsilon. Right? Is it clear? See, for the T is also having the first function output open parenthesis comma id. So just placing this production rule in the place of these two terminals. At the id, t tends to ft dash. At open parenthesis, t tends to ft dash. Now again, t dash is having an epsilon, so it is a nullable. So we need to consider both the first and follow. And in the first function, we're having the output star. So the star itself is having an individual production for the t dash. T dash tends to star ft dash. Just place under star. Place the production rule under star. T dash star. T dash tends to star ft dash. And here we're having three outputs for the follow. Plus dollar closed parenthesis. In the place of these three symbols, just place t dash tends to epsilon. T dash tends to epsilon. In the place of plus, t dash tends to epsilon. In the place of dollar, t dash tends to epsilon. In the place of closed parenthesis, t dash tends to epsilon, right? And while coming to the f is having an, we are not considering the follow of f, right? Only for first function we are considering. Open parenthesis comma id. For the open parenthesis, f is having an individual rule, and for the id, f is having an individual rule. So f is defining two rules, right? So for id, I am using f tends to id. Just placing here f with id is f tends to id. F tends to id. Right. And open parenthesis. Here f tends to open parenthesis, e closed parenthesis. It is a sortable, here itself it is having a sortable rule. So directly we are placing that sortable rules at the place of that terminal. Like this, right? This is the way of constructing the parsing table. All of you note down this. All of you note down this one. Note down this parsing table representation. For the remaining cells, if you leave it like an blank, or if you can write error or blank, you can write anything. But if you leave like this, nothing will be happen. In some textbooks, in the place of this blanks, error will be there. No need to bother about what the error is. In some textbooks, it is blank. That means there is no move with the variable along with the terminal. There is no move. There is no move with those remaining terminals. For example, here you are having E with plus, there is no move. E with star, there is no move. E with closed parenthesis, there is no move. And E with dollar, there is no move. Move means, move is nothing but an action that we apply. Action, whatever the action that we performed with the variables. Right? Is it clear? And now, this is an unambiguous grammar. Why? Because there are no any double entries in the cells. There are no any double entries in the cells. Right? Only a single entry is there. Wherever we represent that cell consisting of only a single entry, right? So if you get such type of an parsing tables, then we can define that. Therefore, the given the given grammar is an unambiguous grammar. Therefore, the given grammar is an unambiguous grammar. Now, see the second example. This is the parsing table. Here we derived this parse table, and we are using this parsing table for deriving the input string. Right. or we can call it as for parsing the input string. We are using this predictive parsing table, right? And see here, the second example here we're having. Note down the second example. Note down this one. S tends to IE, TS, S dash or A, S dash tends to ES or epsilon, E tends to B. Note down these three rules. Three in the sense S is having two rules, S dash is having two rules, and E is having a single rule. Note down this grammar. Example number 2. And construct the first function for this. First of S is I. And here we're having two rules for the S, right? First of S is I comma A, right? First of S dash E comma epsilon, right? First of E directly B, right? And follow of S. And checking for this, here we're having two rules for the S. Make it as an B here, make it as an B here. In this rule, beta is an epsilon. In this rule, beta is an non-terminal S dash. What is first of S dash? What is first of S dash? E, right? E. That means for the starting symbol we are placing dollar, and the first of S dash is an E. Just place here. Just dollar comma E is the output of follow of S. Now S dash. Where we are having S dash in the rule 1, and make it as an B, and what the beta is epsilon. And if the beta is an epsilon, follow of B is equal to follow of A, or follow of A is equal to follow of A. Yes, follow of A is equal to follow of B. And here for what variable we are constructing? S dash, right? So follow of S dash is equal to follow of S. Why? Because follow of S is already constructed. So the same output for the S and S dash. The same output for S and S dash. And here we are checking for the E. See, here we are having an E. In this rule we are having an E. Make it as an B, capital B. And what the beta is? Small t. Just write down T. Here, union, T union. We need a dollar at the output of each and every variable. Make a note of this. We need a dollar. It was not completed here. It was not completed here. There is rest of the output remains here. What that output is? T union. And now I am applying the rule like follow of A is equal to follow of B. Why? Because I need a dollar at each and every variable. I need a dollar at each and every variable. So I am applying the follow function, and applying the follow function like follow of A is equal to follow of B, and follow of B is equal to follow of A. So what here B? What is A? Yes, right? That means T union dollar comma E. Then finally the output of this follow function of E is T comma E comma dollar. Make a note here. There it was a mistake. T comma E comma dollar is the output of E. Right. Is it clear now, the first and follow function? Now this is an first and follow table. Now we are constructing an parsing table, right? What we are constructing? We are constructing an parsing table. And here the representation, the table consisting of the non-terminals and the terminals. Terminals in the sense the input symbols, right? Compulsory we need to write the dollar at the input symbol. Why? Because from the follow we are having the representation like a dollar. Here we are considering this dollar also is also an input symbol representation. So now I am filling the table. I am filling the parsing table. Now first of S, here for only S dash I am taking the output of follow. Why? Because S dash is consisting of an epsilon, right? S dash is only consisting of an epsilon. For the remaining S and E, that does not consisting of any epsilon production. So S dash is a nullable. So for this S dash only I am considering this follow output. And for S and E only I am using first, I am considering the first function outputs. What it means is here first of S is A comma I, right? A comma I. In the place of A input symbol, just I am placing S tends to A, because itself it is having an individual production, S tends to A. So S tends to A. And in the place of I input symbol, I am placing S tends to I E T S S dash. Why? Because for the input symbol I, this individual production is suitable for this I. So directly I am placing that one. Directly I am placing that rule at input symbol I. Right. Here I consider only the first functions. Why? Because the S is not a nullable. And while coming to the S dash is a nullable variable because it is consisting of an epsilon. Both first and follow function I am considering here. And initially I am writing for the first function. I am filling for the first function. And first of S dash is an E. And here itself it is having an individual production. S dash tends to ES. So under E for S dash tends to ES. And now I am considering this one, follow. Follow here we are having follow of S dash is dollar comma E. In the two input symbols S dollar comma E, I need to place S dash tends to epsilon, right? I need to place S dash tends to epsilon. But see here, in one input symbol I get two entries. When I am moving with S dash with E, I get two entries at one cell. I get two entries with in one cell. See what will happen in the next. And complete the parsing table, then I will say what it is. And E tends to B, right? And what first of E is B. Just at the place of input symbol B, just fill the cell with E tends to B. This one, E tends to B. Now, what it is ambiguity. What we are calling here, it is ambiguity. That means two entries at one cell. Two entries at one cell. Here we get an error. What error it is? A conflict that occurs. A conflict that occurs in LL of 1 grammar. So therefore, these types of grammars are not an LL of 1 grammar. See here we are having a statement for that. The grammar is ambiguous. We have two entries corresponding to mu. M is nothing but a mu, and S dash is an non-terminal with an input symbol. When I am reading S dash with E, there is a problem to choose an alternative, whether to choose this one or this one. So this we are considering it as an ambiguity. Right. So LL of 1 grammar consisting of distinguished properties. In that properties, the most important property is the grammar whatever we are implementing for LL of 1, that grammar should be an unambiguous grammar. Right? And therefore we can make a statement there. Therefore this grammar is not an LL of 1 grammar. Why? Because so you should give the reasons like this by stating like this. Stating the reasons like this, and finally you can conclude that therefore the given grammar is not an LL of 1 grammar, right? Now, seeing the stack implementation. Now we are going to learn about how the stack implementation takes place. This the point we already known here. Here we are using a leftmost derivation, and the grammar symbols on the stack make up left sententional form. We already known that. Why? Because LL of 1, L is reading the input from left to right or scanning the input from left to right, and the second L is an applying a leftmost derivation. And here the implementation is without an recursion. With whatever the implementation that we are doing here, that implementation is without recursion. So always this predictive parser uses an explicit stack. Why we are using an explicit stack means to keep track of pending of the non-terminals. Keeping track of pending of the non-terminals, we are using this explicit stack. And here we are using three data structures. One is an input buffer, another one is an stack, and the third one is an parsing table. These are the three data structures we are using here. What the input buffer consisting of, what it contains, string to be parsed. And if there is any representation like this dollar, that meaning of the dollar is the end of the input marker. That means the length of the input was completed. Whatever the input string that we need to parse it is completed. What it means is if the look ahead symbol moves forward, then if it looks at the dollar, then automatically the meaning of that it is end of input marker. And here the stack contains sequence of grammar symbols. Why means we are using the production rules from the given grammar. So what we are doing here is we are pushing the sequence of symbols, grammar symbols into the stack. And we are using two operations here, push and pop operation. And by following the LIFO, last in first out. By following the operation last in first out, we are using two operations, push and pop. We are pushing the grammar symbols into this stack, and whenever it is necessary, we are popping them. And initially the stack contains the start symbol of the grammar. As the input buffer and the stack contains an, initially both are in the form of an dollar. Both should represent in the form of an dollar, right? The parser is controlled by a program that behaves as follows. How it behaves? The program considers X, the symbol on the top of the stack, and A, the current input symbol. These two symbols, X and A, determine the action of the parser. There are three possibilities to be implemented. See what the meaning of this is by explaining with an example. I will clearly show you all those. And here X is equal to A is equal to dollar. If X is equal to A is not equal to dollar, what to do? And if it is a dollar, what it means is the input buffer and the stack if you make empty in the input buffer, if you make empty in the stack, then halts the process, halts the implementation. Then what it means is successful completion, successful completion. Or if it does not if X is equal to A is not equal to dollar, then what we need to do? The parser pops X off the stack and advances the input pointer to the next input symbol. If X is a non-terminal, the program consults entry move X with A. X with A is nothing but an X is a non-terminal, A is a terminal of parsing table M. From the parsing table, we are doing all this. By using the parsing table, we are implementing the stack just by parsing an input string, right? Make a note of this. And these steps are clearly, when you clearly understand, means just by seeing with an example, by learning with an example, then you can clearly understand when we are pushing into the stack and when we are popping that terminal, when we are making it as a successful completion, and when we halt the process. All these things you will well known by clearly understanding with an example, right? See here we're having an example. For the same example, because if with the for this example I have the first and follow table and I have the parsing table. Now I am using the parsing table. I am using the parsing table and I am implementing the stack. See, this is the way of implementation. This is the process of implementing the stack, way of representing the table. See here, matched. Put a headings of like this: matched, stack, input and action. Input and the action. And what the input here in the question? Let's parse the input string ID plus ID star ID. This is a non-recursive descent parser. LL of 1 is a non-recursive descent parser. And here what we are going to parse? ID plus ID star ID. So this is an input string, right? And see, after storing that input into the buffer, and you should end the input with an dollar. You should end that input with an dollar like this, right? And here initially the stack contains an starting symbol of the given grammar. What it means is starting symbol with the dollar and input string with an dollar. In the both the stack and the input buffer, we need to represent like this. We need to represent like this. The stack with the starting symbol of the grammar with a dollar and the input buffer with the input string with a dollar, right? What we need to do is we need to make the stack empty and we need to make the buffer empty. Then finally it gets acceptable. Right? And now I am moving by performing some actions, right? Move, here see, move, what it means is Move M. Move E comma, what the first terminal here? Here I am pointing within my look ahead symbol. Here there is an arrow representation, right? In the slide it was not there. Just imagine that. Here I am having an arrow represent. That means I am scanning my input from left to right. Now I am at ID. My look ahead is at ID. So move M of E comma ID. M of E comma ID. See in the table. What is M of E comma ID? What is M of E comma ID? That means we need to check like that. We need to check like that. Move E with ID. What the rule we're having in that cell. What the rule we're having in the, what the production we're having in that cell. So use that one. So use that one. For example, if I'm having and move action with E comma plus, there is nothing is there. It is an error. That means maybe the input string, what I am taking the input string is an wrong input string, or maybe at the time of constructing the first and follow functions, there itself, if I made any mistakes, there itself if I get any errors, but I didn't know those. Initially I didn't know those. After writing the table, after representing the parsing table, at the time of implementation of the stack, there if I get an error, then what the indication of that is somewhere you done a mistake. Somewhere you done a mistake, right? See, that is the way of checking. Move some variable with an terminal from the parsing table, right? And move E comma ID means what the rule I get? E tends to, initially it is this one, no, E comma ID. Move E comma ID means what the rule I get there? Production rule E tends to ID. So what the action I need to perform? TE dash. TE dash. What it means is I need to store, I need to push this TE dash into the top of, into the stack. What it means is E dash is pushed into the stack, and now T is pushed into the stack. Now what will be in the top of the stack? T, right? Now T with ID. T with ID. T with the ID. There in the cell, in the parsing table, I'm having T tends to F dash is the production rule. So the F T dash is pushed into the stack. Now that in the top of the stack we are having F, right? F ID. Move F comma ID. Move F comma ID means in the place of that cell we are having F tends to ID. F tends to ID. Now this is pushed into the stack. In the place of this we are replacing this. See, right, in the place of this E I am replacing with this TE dash. What it means is after reading this E, and what will be stored into the stack means the right hand side production. The right hand side of the production will be stored into the stack, right? And here see F tends to ID. Now this ID is pushed into the stack, and in the place of this F placing it as an ID. ID means two terminals. Now both in the stack and both in the input buffer we match the ID. ID was matched there. So pop the terminals, right? There we done an pop, and then remaining non-terminals in the stack, T dash E dash, and the remaining input string plus ID star ID, right? And here T dash with plus, move T dash with plus, move T dash with plus. Here there is no an appropriate rule. There is no an appropriate rule. In the place of there we are having T dash tends to epsilon. T dash tends to epsilon. So just place epsilon here. What it means is we are making T dash as a nullable. And now E dash, and in the stack E dash remains, and E dash plus, move E dash plus. In the table when we are reading move E dash with plus, there we are having a rule E dash tends to plus T E dash. E dash tends to plus T E dash. Just push this right hand side rule, into the stack. Now it becomes plus T E dash. And this plus and this plus are matched, and pop those terminals plus and plus, and in the stack we're having TE dash, and in the input buffer we're having ID star, ID dollar, the remaining is string. And here now again move T with ID, T with ID. There we're having in production T tends to FT dash, and this FT dash is placed in the, is pushed into the stack in the place of this T. Now F with ID, move F with ID, move F with ID, we are having an rule F tends to ID, right? And push this ID into the stack. Now in the place of this F we are having ID, and again we got an match. What that match is? Match ID, that means pop here. And what the remaining variables in the stack and the remaining input in the buffer. And here move T dash comma star, T dash comma star. There in the predictive parsing table we are having a rule like T dash tends to star F T dash. At the place of T dash star, at the place of T dash star we are having, in that cell we are having T dash tends to star F T dash. So this star F T dash is pushed into the stack, and in the place of this T dash we are having star F T dash, right? And this star and star is matched. Pop this star and star, pop it. And finally what it remains in the stack, what the variables we are having, F T dash E dash, and here in the input buffer we are having ID, right? Now move F comma ID, move F comma ID. In the parsing table, when we are reading F with ID, we are having the production like F tends to ID, right? Push this into the stack, and in the place of F we are having ID, and in the input buffer we are having ID. So there we find out the match and pop it ID and ID, pop ID, ID. So the input buffer is completed. There is nothing. The overall input string is over, completed. We parse the input string. That means the look ahead symbol reaches to the dollar. So nothing is there. Nothing input is there. The overall input we completed by reading and by popping it. And but while coming to the stack, we need to make the stack empty. So T dash E dash, T dash E dash, and move T dash with dollar, T dash with dollar, T dash tends to epsilon. There we'll having the rule like this. So place this epsilon in the place of T dash. Make it is a nullable. And what the remaining variable in the stack? E dash. E dash with dollar. E dash with dollar. It is T, E dash tends to epsilon. And place this epsilon in the place of push the epsilon into the stack. And in the place of this E dash we are having epsilon. What it means is it is nullable. So finally what happened? The stack gets empty and input buffer gets empty. So therefore the input string that we parsed is an acceptable. So it is a successful completion. Now we're halt, and then therefore successful completion. Therefore the input string that we parsed is an what we can define there is an LL of 1 grammar, is an LL of 1 grammar. Why? Because in between we didn't get any errors, in between we didn't get any conflicts. So it is an unambiguous grammar, and whatever the input string that we take, whatever input string that we parsed here, that input string is also belongs to the LL of 1 grammar, right? So by giving this type of statements, we're concluding the stack implementation, right? Is it clear, all of you? All of you make a note of this. Parsing the input string, parsing the input string. And the last one is an parse tree representation. And whatever we done for generating the input string ID plus ID star ID, and this is the representation of this, starting with a root node E, and this is the representation of the parse tree. This is the overall representation of the parse tree, right? ID for generating ID plus ID star ID. Right? Is it clear? Is it clear how to accept the input string? How to accept the input string? From the E we get an T E dash. From the T we get an F T dash. From the F we get an ID, right? this t dash becomes an epsilon, and the e dash, from the e dash we get an plus t e dash, right? And this t, from the t we get an f t dash for f id, and from the t dash we get a star f t dash, and f is an id, and making this t dash and e dash is also an id. That is nothing but the representation in the form of tree. Whatever the actions that we performed, starting with the variable starting symbol, starting with the starting symbol variable, and ending with the input string id plus id star id, that is the representation of the parse tree. Nothing is there. E, t, e dash, t, what is t? F t dash, f is an id, right? This t dash becomes an epsilon here. So this is the way of representing an parse tree. And here we're having the block diagram of predictive parser. Once see that block structure, and with this the concept of predictive parsing, construction of predictive parsing is completed by learning all the problems with top-down parsing and the construction of first and follow function and construction of predictive parsing table. And finally, by parsing with an input string, we saw how the stack implementation is performed, and with the parse tree structure, totally the concept was completed. And in the next class, I will explain the concept like in recursive descent parsing. The concept for the recursive descent parsing, like in recursive descent parsing, I already explained the basic introduction about what the recursive descent parsing and how the representation of the recursive descent parsing looks like, and how the backtracking involves in recursive descent parsing. All these points I covered in the last classes. But for the tomorrow class, what I am going to explain in recursive descent parsing means, by showing with an examples how to write the procedures for the recursive descent parsing. That's the concept I am explaining in the tomorrow class, right? And before ending the session, see here we're having a block diagram of the predictive parsing. That is the most important structure. Once you all see this one, yeah, all of you see this slide once. What the structure consisting of? Whatever the first and follow function that we computed, already we understand, we already done it. That is nothing but an parsing. That is nothing but an parser here. That is LL of one parser. And what we done here is we compute first and follow function. And here we're having three data structures. One is an input buffer, another one is in stack, and another one is in parsing table. See, these three are connected to the parser, right? These three are connected to the parser. And finally, single direction for the parser with the input buffer, it is in single direction. From the parser to the stack, it is in single direction. But from the parsing table to the parser, there is in bidirection. See, all of you, bidirection. And finally, we are getting an output in the form of an tree, parse tree structure. We are generating an tree, right? But here this table, whatever the parsing table that we represented in a 2D matrix representation parsing table, that means at one side we are defining all the variables, and at one side we are defining all the terminals in the given grammar, right? And starting with in both the stack and the inputs consisting of an dollar marker, consisting of an dollar representation. This is a dollar marker, and at the place of an input buffer, the meaning of it is an end of the input. And initially when we make the stack empty without having these two variables in the stack, if the stack consisting of like this, then it is an empty stack. Then we can call it as an empty stack, right? And these three are the data structures of the parsers. Parsers. It may be an LL of one parser. Here we're talking about a top-down parsing, right? So it is an LL of one parser. This is the block structure of the predictive parsing. See, here we're having 3 points. Predictive parsing uses a stack and a parsing table to parse the input and generates a parse tree. Yes. Both the stack and input contains the end symbol $ to denote that the stack is empty and the input is consumed. We already seen with an example, right? The parser refers to the parsing table to take any decision on the input and stack element combination. What the role of the parser is? It always refers to the parsing table to take any decision, on the input and the stack element combination, right? This is nothing but the block structure of the predictive parsing, that is LL of one parsing, LL of one parser. We can call it as a non-recursive descent parser. Right, in the next class, we'll see an examples how to write the procedures from the given grammar in a recursive descent parsing.